In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the AC condenser on this Ford Escape. It's going to be located behind the front bumper in front of the radiator. Let's get into it. Before you start this job, you need to bring the vehicle to a local shop to have the AC refrigerant removed from the vehicle. We're going to remove this cover. Just use a trim tool, take the push pins out. And take these push pins out as well. And grab this panel and just flip it upside down out of the way. We're going to remove these bolts. Use a 10mm socket. Underneath here, we're going to take all these screws out. Use a 7mm socket. Using a trim tool, there's a push pin right here. Pop those out on each side. On the inner fender well, we're going to take these screws out. Use a 7mm socket. Using a trim tool, take these push pins out. Just pop those out. And pop this push pin out. Same with the trim tool. Oh, sometimes they break. That's okay. Just get new ones. Pop this trim piece off, just pull it back. If you need to, you can use a trim tool. It's just clipped in. We're not going to take it off completely, but just pop it out a little bit. There we go. There's a connector right here for the sensor. Just disconnect the connector. Push down on the tab, slide that off, and push that wire in. And the inner fender well, just pull that out. And we just pop it down a little bit, just so you can access inside here. There's 3 screws going in this way. I'm going to take those out. Use a 10mm socket. Take that out, and the other 2. Using a trim tool, we'll just pry this down. There is 2 clips that you may have to release from the inside. These are broken on this vehicle. You can use some needle nose pliers. or even a straight blade screwdriver and just release the clips underneath here. Pry those down and out. And just grab the bumper and just give it a quick tug just to release it from underneath the headlight. Then we're going to do all the same stuff on the opposite side. Using a T30 socket, take these screws out. That's good. You just grab the bumper cover, I'll just slide it off. Just pull it out. And there's a connector right here. You want to disconnect the connector. Just push down on the tab. Separate the connector. This piece right here, we want to get this out of the way. We're going to disconnect this cable here. Just pop up. And just pull that out, just like that, just where the cable is. Just to get a little more room, we'll take the engine cover off. Just pull up underneath. Pop that out of the way. Take this cover off, use an 8mm socket. Take these screws out. Those screws are just going to stay with the cover. More down there. Disconnect the connector for the mass airflow sensor. Set that aside. I'm going to use an 8mm socket, loosen up this worm clamp down here. Just slide it down there. All right, that's loose. I'm just using a straight blade screwdriver just to pry this off. You can use a pick. Push that out of the way. I'm going to pop this cover off right here. And this pipe. Couple of clips holding this in. Just use a straight blade screwdriver, pull that out. Just grab the box and slide it up. Here we go. Just pop that up. Take that out. Now we're going to drain the coolant. You can see where the drain is on the radiator, on the back side. I'm just going to use a hose and just push this on the best I can just to direct the fluid. You don't have to do that, but it just helps so that you can drain it into a drain pan. And I'll just use a pair of pliers, some needle nose, just to get this started. And you should be able to do it by hand. Loosen that up. There we go. Let that drain out. Using a trim tool, just pop these push pins out on both sides. Using a 10mm socket, take these bolts out, one on each side. And take this bracket, set it aside. And disconnect the connector for the fans. Just push on the tab, slide that apart. And there's a retainer right there. And pop that off. Just use a trim tool. Get underneath that. Pop that off. I'll disconnect the connector for the impact sensor, just to get the wires out of the way. There's a hose right here. You want to follow that back underneath It's connected to the radiator. You just want to push down the 2 clips. Slide that off. You can see that's what you're pushing on. Slide that out. And slide the clips out for this hose. Just move that to the side, out of the way. This hose down below, you want to just use a pick. There's a clip holding it in. Pop this clip out. Grab the hose. Give it a wiggle. You might need a drain bucket underneath if you lose some coolant. Set that aside. The connector for this valve right here, disconnect that. Just push on the tab. Slide that connector out. Just move the wire to the side. And you can follow down below. There's a hose right here. We want to disconnect that. There's a retainer right there. Underneath, there's a clip. So we're just going to use a pick. Push the clip down. You can see underneath, this is the clip. You're just trying to get underneath the clip. Pull that out so then you can disconnect the hose. There might be a little coolant in there as well. To access the hoses, we're going to take the passenger side headlight out. We're going to use a T30 socket. Take these screws out. There's one up top. Grab the light assembly, slide it up, disconnect the connector, just push down on the tab. You may need a prying tool or just a straight blade screwdriver. Slide that off. And there's a connector in here. Just push down on that tab. Disconnect that. And you can set that aside. Take the AC hoses off. Use a 13mm socket for this nut. That's okay, that's just a vacuum. We had the refrigerant removed. Using a 10mm socket. Take that bolt out. Set those to the side. Now take the hose clamp pliers. We're going to move this hose clamp. Slide that up, out of the way. Using a pick, just get underneath the hose. Or even try twisting it a little bit. Take that hose off. Take this hose off. We'll just use a pick. Just pull this clip out. And then just pop this off, out of the way. Then this hose, take this clip off. Then grab that hose and you want to push it back. Just separate it from the radiator. There we go. Separate from the radiator. Take these push pins off, just use a trim tool. Pop that out. And then this shield on the side here, we're going to pop these out on both sides. Just using the trim tool. Pop these push pins out. And there's 2 above. And this piece, we'll just twist this and take that out. Do that on both sides. Disconnect this connector. Push down on the tab, push that out of the way. Loosen up this hose clamp, use a 7mm socket. That's good. And grab the hose, slide that off. If you need to, you can use a pick. Just get in there. You just want to move that hose out of the way. Remove the hose on the other side, use the 7mm socket. Loosen that hose clamp. Grab the hose, slide it off. This is for the intercooler. Just move that out of the way. Towards the back of this bar, we're going to loosen this nut and bolt right here. Use a 15mm wrench, 13mm socket. I'm just going to loosen it that much just so this can swivel. Then we'll take those two 10mm out. Just use a 10mm socket. And that can twist like that. Using a 10mm socket, take these two bolts out. Take those out and then grab the bar. Swing that down. Slide it out. And we're going to do the same with the other one. Now I'm just using a pole jack just to support this lower bracket right there. There's a wiring harness right here. Just use a trim tool. Just disconnect that retainer from the bar. Using a 10mm socket, there's two bolts here, one in the back, one in the front. It's a long extension for this one. Same 10mm socket. Take that out. Now we can lower this down. This might help to have two people help you with this. Push that away. And this whole assembly is going to come right down. Now with it on the ground, we're just going to separate the lower bracket from the radiator. Just push down on the bracket, pull up on the radiator, and the fan and the whole assembly. We're going to take the fan assembly off the radiator. Just use a pick or a trim tool or even a straight blade screwdriver and just loosen up on the clips. And the whole fan will slide. Comes down and out. Now we're going to flip this over. There may be some coolant, so you might want a drain bucket. Take this bracket off, use a 8mm socket. That comes off. And the other side. Grab the intercooler, twist it up, and then slide it down. Set that aside. Now this top insulation, you just want to peel that off. If it's in good shape, you can reuse it. There you go. Take a straight blade screwdriver, just push down on this clip, and slide the condenser up. Slide that up. Then on this side, do the same. There's a little clip there. And slide up. And separate the condenser. On the new condenser, you want to add 1.5 ounces of refrigerant oil. So make sure you use the correct refrigerant oil. Add a little bit here. You can add a little in here as well until you get 1.5 ounces. You might have to tip it a little bit. All right, should be good. Take the condenser and just line this up with all the clips. Just get it started on both sides. Push that. All right. That's clipped in place, and that one is too. That's good. Take the intercooler, slide up. You're going under these clips, right here and right here. Two little openings up top. Slide those up, and then just tip it down. Get the bracket started. And get this bracket on as well. And snug those down. Now flip it over. And we'll install the cooling fan. Just line that up. Lock it in place. Take the whole assembly, get it lined up in the bracket, into the grommets. That lined up in the grommets, just push it down. With an assistant, we'll just slide this up into place. Now, once we get up there, there's some pins that have to line up top. That's going to be part of the tricky part. And just put the support there. Now take the bolts, get those started. Might have to shift it a little bit. And same with the other side. Now tighten those down. And tighten all those down. Take this wiring harness, push that back in place. Get the intercooler hose on right here. Push that in place, and then we'll tighten that clamp down. Snug that down. Lower the pole jack. And take the intercooler pipe on the other side. Get that lined up. Push that on. We'll tighten that clamp down. Snug that down. Take the connector. Line that up, lock that down. This side trim piece, get that in the right location. Push that in. Same with the top. Where is it? And the push pin right there. And do the same on the other side. Take the radiator hose, make sure the clip's back in place. Slide that in, lock that in place. Take the upper one, Lock that one down. Take this hose, push that on using some hose clamp pliers. It's going to go right there. That's good. I'll position these hoses in the condenser, take the bolt, get that started. And we'll tighten that down. Snug that down. And the other one has a stud. You can get the stud started. Using a 5mm socket, we can tighten the stud down. Put the hose over it. Take the nut, get that started. And snug that down. And we'll torque these to 133 inch-pounds. I'm going to take this coolant hose, make sure that lock spring is in place. Slide it over the radiator. Lock it in place. That looks good. I'll take this hose. This is going to go underneath. Clip these in place. And then this is going to go into the radiator. Just get that lined up. And clip it in place. That's good. Connector here. Lock that down. And the retainer right there. And this for the impact sensor. Just get that to line up. Lock it down. All right, take this bar, line this up. And take the bolts, get those started. And the 2 bolts right here, get those started. Tighten these down. And tighten these down. And tighten this bolt. Slide that in place. Bolt started. Take the headlight, connect the connectors, and line that up. Get these screws started. Snug those down. And put this screw in and snug it down. Take this hose, Line that up with that valve. Lock it in place. Put the hose in this retainer right here. And the connector. Line the connector up. Lock that down. Take this bracket, line it up. Take the bolts, get those started. I'll snug those down. And these push pins right in the front there. Same on this side. I'll take the air box. Just slide this in place. Put the air duct, get that lined up. The push pins, or the grommets. Push those down. That's good. This pipe is going to go inside here. I'm going to tighten down the worm clamp. All right, snug that down. Take the connector, plug that in. This hose is going to go down below in the air box. Just get that to line up. Push that in. That's good. And then connect it out here. Now take the air filter, put the air filter on, and put the cover on. Get that lined up. And we'll tighten these down. Take the engine cover, line that up, lock it down. Now the cable for the hood release, just slide that in place and push that down just so the cable's locked in. We'll just leave that like that for now. Now we're going to connect the connector, line that up, click it in place. There's a little retainer right here. You can slide it on the retainer. Right there. And slide the bumper in place. Just on the front of the bumper, just push in just to lock it in place. Now just under the headlight, you're going to push that panel in place. Get this lined up with the fender. That's good. I'll put these bolts in. Those are tight. Because the inner fender well, this part of that popped off, we have to remove some of this trim a little bit. There's a couple clips on the back side of here. If you take an 8mm socket, you can get underneath the clips. You just push them, and that releases the clip. You might have to wiggle it a little bit. out. Here's one right here. I can just show you what the clip looks like. It looks like that. Then if you push the socket over, it just squeezes the clip. Then this can pop out a little bit. I'll just slip this in place. That's good. Before we push the trim back in place, connect the connector. All right, that's good. Push it down, that's good. And you want to take the push pins, get those started, push those in. There's another one right there. And push that one in. Take the screws, get those all started. I'm going to tighten those down. Then you're going to do the same on the other side. Underneath, we're going to put these screws in. Tighten those down. Tighten those up. Put all these screws in. Get these started. Same over here. There's one more. And we'll tighten those down. And take the screws up top, get these started. Tighten those down. Flip this panel over. Make sure it's still attached. The cable's still attached. That's good. Push pins and push those back in. At this point, you want to add the appropriate coolant, a 50-50 mix, up to the max line. Then you want to run the engine for about 15-20 minutes, making sure the engine's not overheating and double checking the level. Shut the vehicle down. Once the vehicle is cool, double check the level again and adjust accordingly. And tighten the cap down.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.